We're all aging, and it's one of life's greatest privileges. But how do we turn the table on aging so it's not something to fear, but it's actually an opportunity to embrace? What if aging meant extending the quality of our life and learning to sit comfortably in our older selves as naturally as we once did in our youth? I'm Jacinta Parsons, and brought to you by Uniting AgeWell, this is The Aging Ideal. Through honest and inspiring conversations, we'll cut through the noise to find out what it really means to grow older well. Are you in love?
Not at the moment, no.
Yes, I am. Oh, it's a long story. My second love.
I wish. Not yet. I'm working on it.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm emotional already. Isn't that funny?
We all grew up inundated by stories of young love, those dizzy beginnings, the first kisses, the being swept off our feet, and the expectation that we should all want a happy ever after story. So it's disappointing, but not surprising, that we have an entire culture that believes that love, romance, and intimacy is only for the young. In this episode, we're stepping into the world of later life romance, companionship, desire, and connection. We'll hear from people discovering new partnerships after decades of marriage, from those navigating dating, and more. We'll talk about grief and renewal, sexuality and intimacy, independence and togetherness, and the courage it takes to love again. Because love in older age isn't a footnote, it's a chapter. Jodie Rogers is a qualified sexologist and counsellor who believes that human connection is the beating heart of a meaningful life and that everyone, without exception, deserves to be loved and to love. Today, she joins us to explore what it really means to connect, belong, and open your heart to love no matter where you are in life. Welcome, Jodie.
Thank you for having me.
Why do you believe human connection is so important for our well-being?
Well, as a species, we're meant to be together. We're part of a social gang. That's who we are. There's very, very few people that desire a life, on their own as hermits or to be separated from people. The majority of us, we survive because we are connected together. I just think it's part of being human and one of the most integral parts of being human.
What stops, though, people from feeling worthy of love, and how can we overcome that?
If we're talking about romantic, intimate type of love, I think we are sold that you have to look a specific way. And the further you are away from that means that people see themselves as not worthy. So I think if we're talking about what we see in the media, there's a particular body type or a particular look or a particular age or a particular style that people are meant to be. So the further you are away from that, the less you may see yourself as that. It actually makes me quite emotional and teary because what I see in my work often is people that are so desperately lonely. And when people are lonely like that, it impacts on every component of people's mental health and also on their physical health. It's an easy fix. The easy fix is us having friendships and connections and being together. We forget that our sensory need for one another is really, really important. And I'm not talking about sex so much. I'm not talking about that type of intimacy. I'm talking about when one person lays their hands on another person. But when we think about the fact that when you hold somebody's hand, when you stroke somebody's face, when you hold, when you lay your hand on somebody's back, when we give each other a granny pat, all of that fulfills a need within us as humans.
Okay, so are we never really too old to open ourselves up to love?
I think about it like this often. From the moment of birth, if we are lucky enough, if we're lucky and privileged enough, we are held. And that first moment of being held, and they talk about skin on skin being held, that should last until the moment of death. And if we are lucky enough, we have somebody holding our hand or laying their hands on some part of us at that moment. And if we can get from that to the other end of life with continual connection and with continual touch, we are a very, very privileged, lucky human.
It reminds me of the final days with my grandfather and holding his hand and connecting through that. And then years later, I was in hospital and really, really sick and was not able to communicate. But having my hand touched was unbelievable comfort. And it really brought that to the fore for me as well, that it's very simple but so powerful.
The most beautiful part of it.
So what advice would you give to any of our elders tuning in to open themselves up to love?
Age has no limit. There is no stopping point in life when it comes to others that is also seeking love. Everybody's out there looking for the same thing, but it's about being brave and not letting the stigma of what the world is telling us about age hold us back or hold you back.
Speaking with Jodie, it really opened my eyes to the importance of recognising and advocating for love and connection at any age. Now, a couple who embody this as their later in life love story is unfolding is 86-year-old Ian and 85-year-old Bev, both widowed, both grandparents, neither expecting that a simple card game in the activities room at the Uniting AgeWell's Trobe community, where they both live, would lead to something really special. Ian, hello. It sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Tell me what happened.
Yeah.
You're playing cards. When you first met Bev, what initially drew you to each other?
We're up there playing cards. I was sitting on one side of the table and this lady come in, and she was a new lady, and I sort of looked at her and I thought, oh, God, We just gradually got to know each other through different events and everything, and then we sort of started visiting and sort of talking to each other and all that. And we had a lot of in common. We like our coffee, we like our talking, we like to go out in the garden.
When did you realise, Ian, that the connection was becoming something more than friendship?
Probably when we started being a bit personal with each other, what we might be talking about.
Yeah. Have you seen much change in yourself since, you've become a couple with Bev?
Oh, yeah, I think so. It's given me a little bit more to day-to-day looking forward to.
How did your family feel about you falling in love again?
Family's quite happy about it. Yeah, they're all okay with it. I just explained to them, okay, I've got something to tell you, and I met the lady in the home, and we're getting along very well. And I said, okay, then when are we going to meet the lady? And
have they met Bev, Ian? Have the family?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she comes out with us as well.
How does being in love now compare to what it felt like earlier in both of your lives?
Probably not exactly the same, no. But the feelings and everything are still there. Closer than an ordinary friendship type of thing,
It's lovely, isn't it, Ian?
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about it, I think, gosh, that's so lucky that you also found each other. What would you say to other adults, older adults, who might be hesitant to pursue love or companionship later in life?
Oh, I'd say go for it. You still got a life ahead of you. And share it.
Do you and Bev talk much about your future? Are there things that you worry about with each other?
We do talk about that, and we talk a lot what we'd like to do. I'd like to have it just as we are now, around the home and going out and knowing each other's, if each other's there.
As people live longer and healthier lives, romantic and intimate relationships in older age are becoming not only more common, but more important to well-being, identity, and connection. Our guest, Professor Deirdre Fetherstonhaugh from the Australian Centre for Evidence-Based Aged Care at Trobe University, sits before me with her heart and mind open. What are some of the biggest myths or misunderstandings about older people when it comes to love, romance and sexuality?
Well, there's a myth about that older people aren't interested in sex. People just don't think they are interested in sex.
That is so prevalent, that myth, isn't it? It's everywhere.
Absolutely, yep. Which, they'll injure themselves in some way, that they can't have sex because their bodies don't work, or, that older people don't need to practice safe sex either. There are these sort of myths about that.
It's so insidious, this concept that love and intimacy and romance is for the young.
It's also, I mean, we're quite an ageist society. I mean, if you look at billboards around the place, it's always young people and, interestingly, young, attractive people, but not everybody's young and attractive anyway. So, but it is interesting. And we tend to, you can go into a newsagent's and find some very awful cards of older people laughing at them, I suppose. And the sort of terminology like calling older women a cougar or a dirty old man, so there's all that sort of stereotyping that happens as well.
There are factors that are impacted with ageing: chronic illness, changing support needs, bereavement histories. They really shape the way older adults form and maintain intimate relationships. Is that right? And how do we see that?
That is right. And also some people on medications that can inhibit, their libido and whatever. But you're right about bereavement and lack of a partner and opportunity, I suppose, and chronic illness. But, those things can be overcome.
There is such a fait accompli almost concept, isn't there? It's like, get to this age and if there are barriers, well, that's it.
And I mean, we look at things like, the expression of sexuality is not just about sexual relationships, but it's about your identity and how you want to look. And all that is really important as well. It's not just about relationships, but it's your identity as a person. Well, I mean, there's also for the LGBTI plus community, I mean, homosexuality was illegal. It's very difficult because they still think that they're going to be, biased and all sort of things. So, yeah, there's a lot of other things happening as well.
It's a huge, huge thing. It really represents so much of us when we talk about this in ageing and how we have this communication about ourselves to the world around us and how that might change or, become more clarified as we get older as well. So a lot of this thinking is obviously done through that systems. We're thinking about aged care, residential environments. But what happens in the wild world of living in community where elder people are intersecting in all sorts of ways with each other? What are some of the barriers or some of the perceptions or issues that they face in that autonomous relationship connection?
Well, I think it's also about having opportunity to be with other people. And I think, things like because of COVID, we're often on the end of a screen rather than actually physically with somebody. And also for, helping or facilitating people getting to these groups of whether they're activity programs or just meeting places or whatever else. So I think that it is really about the opportunity in a way, I think, because a lot of people live on their own.
And you're suggesting there that ensuring that there are opportunities created for elder people to ensure that there is connection being made.
And I think also because we've got this digital world now that we're not interacting, I mean, even the way I shouldn't say younger people, but people meet, it's through some sort of digital media, isn't it?
But you're almost right to say younger people. Even that landscape is absolutely geared toward an age group and a demographic. It's not really necessarily that I'm aware of open to, other age groups.
No, and I mean, even though, there's a lot of a myth about older people not using, computers and whatever else, they actually do, and most of them have got a mobile phone, but they want to meet people in person. They don't want that sort of engagement over the airways or over the,
Yeah, absolutely. So we know there's a relationship between, I guess, connection and well-being. How important then, if we take that step into intimate relationships and romantic relationships, how important are they to well-being?
Well, it's important about identity affirmation, physical closeness, meaning and a sense of belonging, and emotional intimacy. And there is a lot of evidence around that, falling in love in later life can boost the feel-good hormones like dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin. And it can be a protective factor for our cognitive health.
Really?
Yep. Because it's sort of that feeling of elation that you have. And in actual fact, risk factors for dementia, it's interesting. Social connection is a really important thing, having to interact with other people.
Yeah, and finding a companion.
Absolutely.
Later in life where you can have those synapses fire with excitement. Consent it's a really complex area, and how consent might shift as well. We might change our perceptions, but when we are in community or we're family groups, that becomes a really difficult potential conversation.
It does. And we always talk about consent being informed. If you were talking about a medical treatment or whatever, but what does informed consent look like with someone embarking on a relationship, because anybody embarking on a relationship, the relationship could go sour, so it has a negative. It's a negative thing. But do people actually think about that when they actually decide to have a relationship necessarily?
Imagine if we all had to consent to the expanse of the relationships we engage in.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't have consented.
No. And I mean, there's the regret and all that. We've sort of talked about happiness, and that's what we think is more important. Are these people happy?
Wow. That's changing the whole paradigm.
Yeah.
What is your message with all the research that you've done for someone in later in life who thinks their best day of love and sex are behind them?
No, it's not, and go for it. I mean, we published an article once which it was from a direct quote from a lady that I was interviewing, and she said, "I always look under the bed for a man."
Does she hide them there?
Well, she's just hoping. She just hoped that she would look under the bed.
Find one. But it's true, huge cultural shifts need to take place in concert, I suppose, with more of these intimate settings around how we talk about it, and we have to talk about it. Is it ever too late to fall in love?
I hope not.
No, never. You can always fall in love.
The love that was then takes a different turn now. It's actually a bit deeper.
It's not too late. Yeah, life's too short.
One of Australia's most respected public voices, Ita Buttrose, has witnessed and shaped 6 decades of social change. She's just released a new memoir, Unapologetically Ita, and as I was reading it, I knew I needed to have a further conversation with Ita on her frank reflections of sex and love in later life. So I gave her a call. Ita, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
Look, you have lived, obviously, it's an understatement to say you've lived a remarkable life, and you've had a remarkable life of reinvention. How has your understanding of love at any age evolved across those different chapters of your life?
As the song says, love makes the world go round. And I think it's essential that the world goes round, whatever age you are.
And there is something about that in our social conversations that has really limited that perception of that we can be in love, we can have sexual life when we age.
Well, there's a perception, isn't there, in the community among many that sex and older ages don't go together, and that, in fact, older people shouldn't have sex. Some people even think that. But the thing is, I don't think you ever lose your sexual urge or your desire for a relationship. And many people find a relationship that they start in their older years extremely satisfying. And it's companionship as well as feeling needed and feeling wanted and feeling loved.
It's so true, because almost the inverse it can be correct, where actually as we age, we know ourselves more, we know the sorts of relationships that nurture us. And in fact, it becomes almost more vital in our 70s, 80s and beyond. Do you think that's true in your view, that really aging can give love and our sex lives a whole new dimension?
Absolutely, I do, because as we get older, perhaps we've got some physical disabilities, or maybe the joints don't work so well. So you have to adapt. And the way you used to make love may not be the way you make love when you're older. But that's fine. And you can talk about it frankly and without embarrassment to your partner, because he or she is older too.
That's right. And the compassion for our changing selves, is almost embedded in that relationship as well. What do you think about your own experiences and what they've taught you about maintaining that desire and affection and emotional closeness later in life?
Well, I don't think you have to maintain it. It's just there. It's there. You sort of see a good-looking man. Well, I do. You see a good-looking man going down the street or coming across the courtyard to you, and you think, he's pretty juicy. And that happened the other day when I was doing a TV interview, and we were down in a hotel in Double Bay, and this fantastically handsome older man was walking towards us. We all stopped and looked at him, and I was thinking, gosh, he's a good sort. And so were the girls. So were the other girls on the set with me. And we all thought, and he said good morning or good afternoon to us, and we all said hello, and we He went on by, and then we talked about him, of course, and said, wasn't he handsome? And so we all noticed him, and he could have taken any one of us to afternoon tea if he wanted to.
Ita, would you make a move?
Well, I'm hesitant to make a move in case I get rebuffed. But
Ita, of all the humans on earth, surely there's no rebuffing to Ita Buttrose.
Well, I'm sure that I've been rebuffed before, and you just think, well, he doesn't know what he's missing. But you know, it depends. I think if I was just in a one-on-one situation, that would be fine. But with an audience, I think I'd be careful because I don't want to be on X.
Yeah, that's true, actually. You've got a very different, the world's eyes are not just are looking at you with everything that you do. I understand that entirely. But if you're listening, good-looking man, Ida's around if you want to give us a call. Look, we talked about society's expectations and assumptions about aging. They really limit people's willingness often to pursue new relationships or intimacy later in life. What misconceptions do you think that we really need to let go of?
Well, I think people's ideas need to change, and they shouldn't impose their restrictions on older people. So, for instance, some aged care facilities don't encourage relationships. And some families don't encourage relationships. Some families think their parents shouldn't have sex, especially if they're available. You know, if they're a widow or a widower, and they might meet somebody. Families frown on this, and they shouldn't, because the parents have raised you. It's time for you to let them go. They let you go at some point in your life. You have to let them go too.
It's the great flip, isn't it? You know, we're encouraged as parents to allow our children to explore the world and, make mistakes and do all the things that's necessary in a human life. But when it flips, often there is that real protection and perception of what is capable or acceptable as we get older.
That's right. Well, I take my in-laws. They were married for 60 years. They survived the Japanese bombing Burma, where they lived. And then they went back to London, and they survived the Germans bombing London during World War II. And then they finally retired out here to Australia because their two sons married Australians. And at the end of their life, when they were in their 90s, we separated them. We put one in an aged care facility and another one in an aged care facility within half an hour of each other, but not together. And you think, how could you do that? How could you separate people that have been married for 60 years and been through all the things that Brenda and Stuart have been through, and then you separate them at the last moment of their life?
It's a real dehumanising, isn't it? When we get down to it, at the very fundamental discrimination that's at play when we have these assumptions about people who are older, when we get older in life, there is a real issue around just not respecting the humanity of us in that space.
Well, if you take the fact that many employers won't employ older people, and by that I mean people over 50 or 60, it starts quite early, this discrimination against older people. We just have to take the blinkers off and realise that whatever our age, we're all capable of doing great things, and that includes sex.
It does indeed. And I love so much that you're a voice in this space, because we certainly have not had enough conversations about this. And your memoir is wonderful in how it speaks about authenticity and unapologetic living. How can people cultivate that openness to love when we've been told so much that this is not the place we should be? Openness to romance and even that sexual expression regardless of age.
Well, the good thing about getting older, and anyone listening to this will know what I'm talking about, is you don't give a damn. You've lived your life. You're entitled to make your own decisions. You don't give a damn what people think, and you shouldn't give a damn what people think. Just do your own thing.
That's beautiful. And it's so obvious, but it actually is something that you have to cultivate, don't you? You have to be very much clear about this is a life we are living it and discovering right up until the end.
Yes. Why should you not? Why should you not? Why should you stop doing something that gives you pleasure if you so choose to do it?
For listeners who might be older, listening in, of course, and wondering whether it's too late to find love again or even just enjoying intimacy, what are you going to say to them from your own lived experience?
It's never too late. We all know that. It's never too late. You can change overnight. It's never too late to find a relationship. And if it's not meant to be, well, then it's not meant to be. And don't weep about it. Just do your own thing and hang out with your friends.
Yeah. I mean, it remains a time in our lives where being vulnerable and exploring ourselves and who we are is as vital, if not more, in our elder years.
I think so, and we still have opinions. I mean, you can ask an older person. My uncle, who's 102, he reads the Herald every day, except on the weekend when it's not published. And he rings me, and I think, God, I hope I've read the paper well enough to have this discussion. And he discusses the issues of the day with me quite forcefully, and with knowledge, with great knowledge. And he'd be devastated if I didn't have this discussion with him. There's nothing we can't do. Other people's barriers on our age is what stops us, not our own attitude.
That's absolutely right. And it's this work that you do that helps us really interrogate what we're doing as a society, but also that we need to stop listening to those barriers and those ideas about who we might be, who we can be, and who maybe we already are. Ita Buttrose, I hope that man finds his way into your courtyard at some other point. You know,
I'll let you know.
Can you let me know? I want that to happen. Ita Buttrose, what a joy to get a chance to chat with you about this really important topic.
I love it. Thank you.
Being treated like love is only for the young is one of the big issues of ageism. We do not see enough of it on our screens or on our streets, and we are constantly barraged with the concept that there is a time in life when those desires for love or companionship should be well and truly over. Listening to all our guests today, though, has shown me that this could not be further from the truth. And to really advance the elder experience in our societies, we need to make drastic changes to the way we view experiences of love, intimacy, and romance in our older years so we can all embrace the right for us to find love at any age. You've been listening to The Aging Ideal, a podcast brought to you by Uniting AgeWell. We hope that you've really enjoyed the stories, the perspective, and expert advice on the experience of aging. I'm looking forward to continuing this important conversation next episode.